Today, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Generations Deluxe Class Drift from, I believe, 2010, or somewhere around there. He is old. He's unfortunately a little sun-bleached on his shoulder and this top panel here. It's just where he was standing. He's really old. And this was our last mainline version of this style of drift, aka what I would consider actual drift. Obviously, he's had figures since from the movies, which are based on his Bugatti version and his Mercedes. And then I believe he does appear in Cyberverse, I think it was. Too many Transformers shows in this time span, so I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was Cyberverse, though. Which was similar, but he didn't get a toy. Really, I think he had a one-step changer or something. We haven't had a Generations release of Drift in that long, almost 15 years. He's in the drought of Lugnut. That's where he's at. He's with Lugnut of, I don't have a toy of this. Lugnut hasn't had a toy since Reveal the Shield, which is crazy. But this guy hasn't had a toy for around as long, and it's kind of insane to me. I mean, even looking at him, I think he looks sick. The arms, I love the detailing. I love the little shoulder pads with the Autobot insignia, singular wheel. The shoulder pads, though, I do think they're a little far, and I feel like his arm joint is a little weird. Because this is right there, meaning his arm, like the ball joint here, is a little low. It should be, like, right there, but it's a low and back, so it kind of looks a little funny. The legs, I do like them, although they're a little bulky on the sides, and they're a little gappy kind of towards that red piece. But that's just how he transforms. He has really funny-looking legs, if we're being honest. They're kind of odd. They're pretty much just the back of the car, which is a typical trait from back then. Torso looks great. I love the windshield and that little bit of the roof, along with the side skirts being visible there. Looks good. Kind of wish he had some paint there on his thighs, and I'm looking at it. It's like the great detailing's there. They put the gold on the crotch piece, but I feel like they could have put like silver or gold there, maybe even red. I think that would have looked cool. The back of the figure, yeah, it ain't too clean. He has the side skirts, the shoulder pads, and then the back of the car on his legs there. It's a bit messy, but it is what it is. And I think he looks just really cool. One complaint I do have is he very clearly has cube hand syndrome. This was very common at the time where he would have cubes for hands, and they just kind of sculpt the fingers on there or stick them on. It's a little iffy, honestly. It don't look too great, in my opinion. But he does have a couple accessories that we should talk about. First being his little show toes. He has two of these. They're stored on his little side skirts or the car doors, which look cool. The little tiny swords, very nice. They're not super dinged up. They're a little dinged up from play. Again, it's a childhood item, so it's going to be a little dinged up. But they're not too bad. They then just, as you've seen, they just stow away in his doors there, which is very satisfying. And then he has a much larger sword, which is a little warped. My bad. It's rubber, though, so you can kind of get it back with a hairdryer or something. Does have that nice little bit of gold, and then he has some, like, kanji on the side. And he can hold it two-handed, which is neat. And he does have the articulation to actually do the double hand, along with a lot of other sword poses. He's quite poseable, realistically. And I guess since we're speaking on it, we might as well get into it. Head-wise, he does only have a swivel, but he does have a hinge joint that looks up, which is quite neat. And I do think that head sculpt does look quite neat as well. Forward and back. Outward is very hindered, if I'm being honest. It's just how they did the joint. It's one of those, I feel like it should have been the other way, because you do have forward and back at this point here. So I feel like they probably should have engineered it a different way. He does have double elbows, weirdly enough, just for transformation, really. Swivel, ball-jointed hands, so he does have a rotation along with some other movement, which is pretty great, because again, swordsman figures should always have a wrist swivel, and that is just a thing that should always happen. Does not have a waist, though, unfortunately, and it's mostly due to the chest piece here. It's connected down low, which is unfortunate. I feel like they could have cut it, though, because the hinge is, like, above where the waist is. They just didn't do it. They feel like they could have done that. They really could have put that waist in there. forward and back, outward, rotation, knee joint, and that is it. Standard for the time, other than the waist. That's the thing. His arms are very articulate, which is very good for posing. And that's really it for his robot. I mean, that is a pretty nice-looking robot. I will admit I do like the look of him. And man, I wish we could have a new one. We're getting a Skybite again. Can we get Drift again, please? But that is that. So let's get to the transformation to the alt form. So to transform Drift to his alternate form, pretty basic. So the first thing we're going to do is not crack the windows off. That made a very, very sad noise. The window did. If it broke off, I mean, it is what it is. But, come on. That's a very tight piece on an old figure. That ain't good. Fold the little Shoto handles down. I'm pretty sure that's what they're called, the Shotos. Little tiny sword handles. Fold those down like that. So they just kind of are like that. They hinge in. Leave them like that. And then leave the windows folded out. From there, you can then peg the legs together and do another scary step, because he has translucent struts holding his legs together for what is probably the most nerve-wracking part of this entire transformation, in my opinion. You gotta flip the feet in and then up. For years as a kid, I didn't do that. It's not good, and I don't trust it. Peg the legs together, and they go like that. We then come up to the arms, and you can take those and just fold them into the shoulder pad, like so. Just don't mind the tragic piss yellow side. That really sucks, man. I hate that. I really do hate that it's yellow over there. I really wish his chest like a little bit, but not as much as that. These two parts are really bad. Maybe I could someday track down the replacement, but I highly doubt it. Take the little panels on top of the shoulders there and move them forward. They will then go over and cover his head, like so. Make sure the panels are kind of pegged in. They like slightly rest at a certain spot, and you can kind of see how bad that looks now. It looks a little iffy, honestly. Just the discoloration really making that look so bad. Take that and move that up over these little kind of parts that are hanging off the edge. Now we get to probably my least favorite part of this whole transformation, attempting to line everything up, because it always sucks. So the feet go under the windshield, and then from there, it just goes into disarray. I'm not going to lie to you. The whole thing just goes, I don't know what I want to do anymore. And it just doesn't want to sit proper. Make sure those are pegged in. Then, like I said, you got to get this under there, like so, perfectly, and then you can get the doors in. And that is probably the worst part of that whole transformation. And for his sword, just take the little clip on the back, which is used for storage, which I didn't really show. And you can just put the sword there, and it's flush under the car. And there we have Drift's alt mode, which is a nice little white car. Very sporty car, looks good. Apparently this says Drift. God damn it. Looks good. I do like the trans blue windows. I think that looks good. Nice metallic blue back here for the rear. Again, that's what they always did. They never did do that. They painted the rear lights along with this kind of section in between. Did not paint the exhaust. They did paint the wheels. Headlights are in blue translucent plastic, which is nice. And they kind of have the front grille up there as well. And the way the feet are made out, they kind of look like seats in there, which is neat. Can't really see it on camera, but in person it's very noticeable. And I think the car mode looks good, very clean underneath. Like I said, weapon storage, always appreciated. I think the alt mode looks pretty solid, other than, again, the discoloration. It looks solid from this angle, though. Once you start turning it, I mean, that don't look too bad. So when you look at it this way, and you're like, ugh, that don't look good at all. Look at that. You can blatantly see it now. It don't look nice. And I mean, it's a pretty good looking car. I mean, I do like the car. It's a very nice chunky car. It's very, like, not specific. It's a nice little car. Honestly, I do like it. And the transformation's not hard to get here. It's just lining everything up, really. And that's pretty much that. I mean, it does roll, actually, quite nicely. But that is the car mode, and that's basically it for Drift. So let's just get to my final thoughts. And as far as it goes for Drift, what do I think? He needs a new toy, and he needs a new one bad. He's on probably the top of my list. I made a list a couple of years ago on figures I think should get new toys. Drift was on that list then. A lot of the figures on that list have actually since gotten toys. I'm not joking. Like, a lot of them have since gotten toys. But poor Drift, him and Lugnut were both on that list and are probably still in the toilet. I don't know why we haven't seen a Lugnut. I really don't. That's the one that confuses me. I feel like Drift and Lugnut should be like, Hasbro, please, for the love of God, can we get them? Like, I feel like they're figures that a lot of people would want. I feel like it would sell pretty well. Again, who doesn't want the cool Samurai Carman? Who doesn't want that? He's awesome. And again, they're doing all the weird universes. I feel like they could do it. But they just haven't. Like, there gotta be a mold somewhere. Just repaint them. I don't care. Do something. I want a Drift. I really want a new Drift. I would love a new Drift. And they could get, like, a Decepticon one out of them, too, if they wanted. It doesn't really matter. They could do a lot with Drift. I think Drift here is great. He just needs an update. The figure still looks good, but he's just one of... It's like when you look at a shelf and you have, like, an old figure on it. It's like, you can tell it's different. It's a different time period. Everything's different about them. The engineering's different. He's a lot chunkier in a lot of places. He's too thin in other places. The hands look stupid. He's just outdated, but it doesn't mean he's bad. I mean, he's still good. He's a 4 out of 5. Honestly, that's what I'm going to give him. 4 out of 5. I think he is great. It's just, there's a lot of things that are an oversight. Again, I think the arms are really bad on him. I think the hands, the articulation's pretty good. I don't know why they give him a waist. But for the most part, the car mode's great. Transformation's easy enough. It's mostly age, really. That's kind of stopping transformation. I think he's good. Would I say buy him? I mean, if you can get him for cheap, maybe, but I'd hold out, because I feel like he's gonna get a figure someday. Please, Hasbro, please, I'm praying to you, please, can we get a Drift? We need a new one. I love this guy and all, but we need a new Drift. Really bad. And that's really all I have to say about this figure. This has been my review of Transformers Generations Drift. This has been Delete signing out.